I just want to take a couple minutes here to explain and express why I'm so passionate, kind of fired up and motivated behind this upcoming midterm, specifically the U.S. Senate race for the Texas seat between Beto O'Rourke and Ted Cruz. I've had family members, close friends, people probably even wondering, what could have possibly gotten me so fired up, enough to where I'm having to, voice my opinion a bit more loudly than I ever would have in the past. Spending time call banking, going door to door to talk about Beto O'Rourke. These aren't things I typically have done in the past. Not typically, I've never done it, and I've never been this involved. And I can trace it all back to one reason, and that is about a month ago, I was at my parents' house in Houston, and we had the late night or evening news on. And there was a short little interview with Ted Cruz, and they asked him, what his stance was or kind of proposed solutions around school safety when it comes to mass shootings. And his response was that he was going to implement metal detectors, bulletproof doors and windows around the school, minimize the entrances in and out of the building, and potentially put handguns in the hands of these educators and teachers. And so in my head, I was like, okay, so you want us to send our children to prison to get their education? That's the best example I could think of. And just what he was explaining just scared the hell out of me. I've got two little relatives that are, one currently just started kindergarten this year, and the other one will in about 2 years. But I remember thinking 2 years ago, when I knew this relative was going to be going into kindergarten, it scared me because, I know this has become a more common occurrence and you just don't know. And the fact that we don't seem to have a hold on this situation, we're just letting it continue to happen. And I worry about it. And then you hear something like Ted Cruz is proposing, which, if this is his creative solution, it's not the right one, quite honestly. And I would question anyone who thinks that's a good idea. I've asked friends who are teachers, talked to a couple, and one who I spoke with about 2 weeks ago said, yeah, she wouldn't want to handle a gun or have one in the classroom. It didn't sound like a good idea to her, and I would second that. I'm currently here in Atlanta, and last night on the news, there was a headline between a fight between a teacher and a student. Now you imagine putting easy access to a gun in that teacher's hands and what that fight could have turned into. These are just things that don't make sense to me to, again, put in more guns in schools. I think back to my childhood and going to school. I can't even fathom the environment that the kids today have to go to school. You have the equivalent of a fire drill, but what are they calling it? It's like a active shooter drill. And that blows my mind that we're just normalizing that and we're pushing again further along the lines to increase guns and things of that nature. Doesn't make sense to me. I think you're actually increasing the chance of potential violence in schools by putting in that. So I'm by no means, I'm a born and raised Texan. I'm by no means at this moment in time trying to say stricter gun laws and take guns away because it's Texas. Everyone loves their guns. They want their guns. I get all that. I'm just saying we don't need it in schools. So please don't mistake me in saying that, Beto O'Rourke or anyone's trying to take away guns. I know for me, I'm just speaking that I don't want to see it in schools. That solution doesn't sound sound or safe for an environment of children. And people who are voting for Ted Cruz on the basis of many other factors, the economy, jobs, whatever it may be, abortion, all those things. I would just say if you're voting on the economy and jobs, really tell me if that's so important / most important that you would prioritize that above your child safety. I mean, really, like, would you care that I'm making more money, got a great job, there are more jobs, and all of that is more important than your child safety? That's all I would simply ask. And that's how I'm looking at this race is this is about my little relatives. Should I ever want kids or have kids? I'm looking out for their safety. I would very much regret if, whatever years from now, something were to happen to my, some of my own kids or relatives and had to think back, I did nothing and this is that moment. I feel like I think we're headed for sure down a scary path, and I'm not trying to instill fear, but I just think right now Ted Cruz doesn't have the right solution, and it's not what I'm going to vote for. So I'm very much voting for Beto O'Rourke this go round. I would tell and ask everyone to spend 10 quiet minutes before they vote this next week and think about your childhood when you're in school. If you would think it was safe to have, the conditions I described that Cruz wants in the schools now. And secondly, think, just honestly how awful it would be and how you would feel if anyone close to you, a child in your life, you found out was involved in any sort of a shooting at school, and it was because that we decided to put more guns in schools. I mean, it scares the hell out of me, and I really hope that even if Ted Cruz were to win, I hope that's not the path that's chosen. But I'm going to place my bet on Beto O'Rourke, make sure that does not happen. That is not the approach he's taking, and obviously I stand with him on many other issues. But again, this one I'm voting exclusively to make sure that my little relatives, my future someday kids are being educated and have a safe environment to learn in. So early voting is October 22nd through November 2nd. So I urge you to make sure you go out there and vote. Again, October 22nd through November 2nd. And the election day is actually November 6th. So I'm encouraging you to vote Beto O'Rourke. You're welcome to message me, call me. I'm happy to talk more in depth, but this is the way I'm voting. And I'm definitely all in for Beto O'Rourke this coming race. Thanks and have a great day.